kudos to anybody that showed up between fills. You know who you are. We're getting going here. Well, there we go. Good morning. Good morning. Well, my little brother Terry. Good morning, Harry Siemens. Good morning. Good morning. My little brother Terry's probably got a drill or two in the ground right now, going to beat the band on the Saskatchewan Manitoba border north of the number one, which means he's watching the sky and keeping one eye on the clock. We've had all kinds of crazy conditions this spring, and you never know what you got to plan for, what kind of loop that the odds are going to throw for you or against you in your favor. Yesterday, I saw some of you were shut down by a windstorm of all things that was moving our precious dirt across the prairie in a way that was blinding. That's where a lot of you are at today. If you're farming, you're either in the field or you're waiting to get in the field. You're supposed to be in the field, and some of you have filled up the drill and you're ready to go on this call, and I appreciate you so much. And also on the call, we'll have a lot of industry professionals because they know, maybe they have a sense, they belong on this train too. Because that's the key part of this. A train with just an engine, and we got an amazing engine here today. It ain't much of a train, is it? It ain't much of a train without everything that follows the engine. So we're going to talk today about driving the farm transition train. It's always leaving the station. It's always on the track, whether you know it or like it or want it or you prepare for it or not. Doesn't wait for the crop to come off. Doesn't wait for convenient time. It shows up when you're tired, when you're stretched, when the to-do list is already 3 days long. A premium quarter in Saskatchewan now trades north of $1 million. And if you're farming 32 quarters, we'll do the math. We weren't thinking about that when we were playing with the Tonka toys in Grandma's garden in the 80s, me and Terry. Maybe he was thinking about it. Maybe he outsmarted me. But we're in the middle of seeding. It's been a crazy season. I've got Wade Berlinic and Tim Hammond on the call today, and they have figured out that a long time ago they had this inkling that the traditional model, a sign on the fence post, a realtor, a handshake at the elevator, that can't hold a $30 million deal. It's gotten a lot bigger, hasn't it? So they built something that could. It can, the little choo-choo train that can, if you've ever read that book. 2024, they moved a 15,000 acre operation in 3 months, and the kids didn't know it was for sale until the family was ready to tell them. The staff didn't know. The neighbors didn't know. Think about that. It's by design, folks. So if you're watching on YouTube right now, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss the next one. We are building the live room where Western Canadian producers come and the people who serve them come to make sense of what's changing and where things are obvious or painful. And the more of you in the room that can share, the better. My name's Dan Aberhart. I run Growing the Future Productions, Western Canadian Agriculture's foremost live briefing platform. Over the past year, our live events have reached thousands of producers across Western Canada and into the States. I built this room because producers and the people who serve them deserve a place to make $30 million decisions with the right people in it, not at the kitchen table on a 48-hour fire drill. And we'll talk about that. I kept coming back to three things in this conversation. Number one, decision making down to your sleeping point. Should you buy that quarter of land? Not from a place of emotion, but from a strategic vantage point. Number two, enterprise value, not just the price per acre. How can we package what we worked all of our lives for to build into such a way that we capture the most value deserved? And number three is, should it be last, Harry Siemens? I don't know. Maybe it should be first. Our relationship's intact. That is a promise of this series. By the end of this morning, you'll know what the listing model gets wrong, what Tim and Wave have built to fix it, and whether you need a conversation with these two. So we're live on Zoom. We're streaming to YouTube. Put your questions in the chat. And we're going to run a few live polls along the way. I'm going to introduce my esteemed guests here, but I want to know, too, who's in the room. So I'm going to launch this, and that's perfect. We're just going to, if you're so kind, for everybody in the room, let us know who you are, where you're at. And I'm going to introduce our esteemed guest this morning, Wade Berlinic, Hammond Realty. Wade is the architect of what you're about to hear. He farmed his own ground until '05. After he sold, he went and sat down with three people independently, his banker, his accountant, and his lawyer. All three of them separately told the same thing: get into real estate. You'd be good at this. He listened, and he's here today. And then he spent the next 20 years figuring out what nobody else in the country had figured out, how to coordinate a lawyer, an accountant, a lender, and a family around a $30 million event. Keep saying 30 million, doesn't have to be 30 million. Obviously, 5 or 10 is good enough for me. I'll take it. I'll take it on any Sunday. But the framework we're going to walk through today, that's Wade's. He built it from the inside out. Wade, looking sharp this morning. Ready to rock? Got a lot to share?
Hey, absolutely, Dan, and just a little correction. Tim and Wade built it. I
There.
certainly didn't do it on my own, but it's been a wonderful adventure and a great thing to be a part of, and help these families that when you had a $50,000 quarter that is now 500,000, or as you mentioned, the premium quarter is bringing $1 million. If you had a 10 quarter farm and 20 years ago it was worth $500,000. Today it's worth 5 or maybe even 10 million. So the metrics have changed, and those metrics demand a different lens, a different focus, and that's certainly something that we've tried to present.
Yeah, and I think over the course of these conversations, we're going to reframe that in a way that makes sense, and everybody is going to figure out where they're at on that train. And Tim, we got to give you some credit too, obviously, because you did it with him. But Tim, you built Hammond Realty on a hunch that turned out to be right. Years before you started the firm, you're an appraiser, an ag lender, and from those seats, you watched the numbers on Prairie operations get bigger and bigger while the advisory infrastructure stayed the same, right? It's like the old elevator on the Saskatchewan prairies doesn't really have the capacity anymore. We got a lot of nostalgia about it, but maybe what you did right in the strategic coach sense is you found the who that could come in and architect the exit piece, back to giving credit to Wade, giving credit to you for getting Wade. The result is you saying you're the really one of the only or the only firm in the country that's built out a structure like this.
I would say yes, and certainly for agriculture, right? There are, some commercial real estate companies that are maybe, in the advisory space, but we kind of developed it because of all the frustration and the challenges that we incurred as we're trying to sell these farms in the traditional sense, right? And so, and we love to solve problems, right? And there's got to be a better way to do this. And how can we coordinate people to end up with more value for them and just a better outcome and experience overall? And the one of the things that I've built in my company is fantastic relationships. The people that I have working with me, they're all experts, man. Every time we get together and we have a meeting, I learn something, and that's the kind of room that I want to be in, right? And I think, and I hope, all of my team feel the same way too. But it all comes down to relationships and respect and thought capital in that.
Well, and I hope that's why the people that are in the room with us are here, because this is about a transfer of trust, and hopefully you feel that trust today and going forward, and everything that we present here, growing the future. That is my capital, is my trust in the market. So we've got 5% farming here with no transition on the horizon. God bless you. Keep going. We're proud of you. Pat on the back. Keep feeding the world. We've got 30% farming, actively thinking about a transition, 1/3. We have 10% stepping back, succession in motion, or recently exited. I'm surprised we don't have any lawyers. I did send out some emails to lawyers. Maybe they're just going to watch the recording. 15% bankers or lenders. Thank you for making the world go around. We need the fractional banking system so we don't have to, as Robert Angelic would say, go marauding against other villagers. Accountants, we've got 15%. No non-farming siblings. I didn't fill out the poll. Oh, one lawyer, Sean Padnode. Hey, well, you've got the monopoly on lawyers today, Sean. So we expect to hear from you. Your name had come up in a good way earlier in the green room, I got to say. Succession planners, 5%. Priest, pastor, counselor, because you're in the room when this gets hard, is 5%. Harry Siemens, hopefully you identified as a lay preacher, but we didn't have a category there for farm journalists. And then other ag advisor or industry pros, 15%. So we kind of expected that. during seeding, but this is so much about the folks that are helping the producers. And but I want to go back to the seminal moment, Wade, when maybe about a decade ago, and I don't know what exactly the context was of the meeting, but you and Tim had this moment where you realized maybe realtor is a bit of a limiting word or didn't describe what you were doing into the future. And that was even a decade ago, probably more so today. But how did this all come out to be that you needed to have more than put a sign out at the end of the lane and call your realtor?
It probably started originally, it would have been either a lawyer or an accountant that we needed some help with on a larger operation. And from that farm, it became apparent that we need to have more of these conversations because the tax implications, the structure of the sale, the timing, is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Is it over 4 years? Potential title changes prior going to market. I've seen so many times when there's privately land and corporately owned land, and maybe some of that should be moved around. I've seen times where there's mom and dad and one of the kids on title, and that, if you sell it in that fashion, has tax implications. And who can answer that better than their accountant? And who can answer better how to structure if there's a corporation involved than the lawyer? So that's kind of where it started. And then it became an every farm thing, where one of my early discussions with the potential client was, have you talked to your lawyer? Have you talked to your accountant? If you haven't, let's do that. Better yet, let's do that together. So if there was one main takeaway that I think anybody considering a transition should be thinking about, if you've never had all your advisors, banker, lawyer, accountant, financial advisor, and someone like us to lead that crew in the same room together, you should have. That is a turning point. That is a moment in time. And I will share an example from a few years ago. I sat with a couple of brothers, and the one's married, one's not. That's irrelevant. But we sat with their lawyer and their accountant on video. At the end of that meeting, the look of stress relief and just the air, the tightness came out of the room, because they had no clue. They were so confused. What do we do? How do we handle this? And they had a substantial farm. But that meeting, that initial meeting, is like, wow, I cherish those moments. I feel so good for the clients after they've had them. And they're like, thank you for that. And then the whole process moves forward a lot easier after that. That meeting with all the advisors is absolutely huge. And one more note on that. We like doing that because we're not accountants, and we're not lawyers, and we're not bankers, and we're not financial advisors. But we do understand marketing and how to set up marketing farms and or purchasing of more farms, and the process that goes with that. Yeah, you need someone to lead that process, and that's where we come in. And we've done it. We've done it many times, and we love it. We love doing it.
I can really relate to that conversation. I've had that conversation. I've been sat down by the experts and told where we're at, and the big reveal of how the succession planning went. So I wanted to get to you right away, Tim, to backfill on that a little bit. But with much due love and respect to our audience, we've got some questions coming in here already. So Harry Siemens is asking, recurring question he keeps asking, $300 an acre in 1967 was a record price we paid on our farm. Holy doodle. And then today in the Winkler area, we are hearing 5,000 to 10,000, even 15,000. Are you bidding it up, Harry? Is it you? Is it you? Well, how do farmers make that work, especially with increasing costs and fluctuation? Is it about what your cap rate is on the old land that you bought? But that really speaks to the whole thing of like, this ain't your daddy's ball game for farming. This is an investment. There's tens of millions of bucks involved. Who wants to take that one? One of my panelists take that
Well,
on.
it is. It's really challenging, kind of at these prices, right? At all-time highs, and just kind of the general way the market is right now. It's, people are uncertain. Do we step out and kind of take that risk on at those prices, right? And but it still makes sense to buy land that is strategic for your farm at these prices, as long as you really considered all the risk and mitigated that as well as you can, right? But it's also time horizon too, right? If you're only going to farm another 4 or 5 years, maybe timing is important, and this will be a precipitous to maybe deciding to exit anyways.
I think that speaks to what we were talking about earlier about how emotional buying land is. And this framework is actually more than you'd think, because we think about it just at the end of something, but during the strategic decision making. And I think this is one of the biggest problems that you can solve for people on planet Earth today. If you have a choice about buying land, what do you do? And how do you sleep at night? And how do you know if it's the right thing or not? But if you built in a strategic framework, it's just like being in the markets. You have a discipline. You've already made the decision. Does it fit your criteria? You're not going to color outside the lines. You're providing that decision-making framework during the building of the build to sell. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say, like, as it relates to an exit, right? Like, Wade and I, we've had, clients in this that have taken 1 year to 2 years to do this. When we take that time to be strategic about it, it also allows them to go through some of these emotions. Because you're going to have conflicting emotions, right? You're happy to exit. You had this tremendous career in farming, but yet, what am I going to do, right? And where am I going to go? And so when you take time to kind of really fully process that you're getting ready to exit, that helps you process those emotions. And that's important too, right? Whereas if you just go straight to the market and you put it on the market, now you got to go through that cycle in 1 month. And that is hard, right? So anyway, that's one of the benefits to taking time and collaborating with everyone on your dream team, right? To establish the playbook to exit. And then when you do go to exit, you're so much more prepared.
Well, and some folks need more time than others to process the emotions,
Yes.
I think.
If I could just jump in there for a second,
there,
Dan, one of the things for the people when they're considering their exit is they don't know where to start, and it becomes a huge, sometimes confusing ball of, I don't even know where to go next.
Yeah.
We help that, and we help bring, we like to use the word clarity. We know what questions to ask. And it is amazing how a couple-hour conversation at the kitchen table with the right questions asked will already start to develop a path for them. And then pretty soon they're like, oh, okay, I never thought of that. And that's just an experience thing. And that's because that's what we do. Most of the time, they are the exceptional farmer, and they grow some tremendous crops, and hats off to them, and they're feeding the world. Thank goodness we've got them. But when it comes to the business model of what do you do with what you've built? Well, now you need someone who does that. That's their advisors. That's with us at the helm, and leading and driving that train, as you say, and saying, well, here's where we start. And let's get these questions answered. And then we'll move on to those ones. And pretty soon, oh, well, there's a plan. And yeah, it works fantastic.
Language is the currency by which we transfer ideas. And even from the old days being down by the water hole where there's maybe a lion that was taking on the water buffalo, we had to be able to describe it to each other in ways that enhanced our safety. Well, you guys had to name this process, because to give it name is to give it life and to give it structure, and you have it defined. At what point did you realize, okay, we need to call it something else, and we need to have these strategic documents that we're going to be sharing as we go, for people to know, like, there's something different? Or you haven't changed your name yet, Tim, to Hammond Advisory Badasses or whatever. I mean, just made that up on the spot. You don't have to use that, but
yeah. No, that was really important in this whole process, because, our whole team has been doing this forever, right? And so, but we didn't have a name for it, right? We didn't have language around it. And, and through Strategic Coach, I go down to Santa Monica quarterly to, kind of hopefully improve myself in my business. I did learn about the unique method and the unique process, right? And to give it language. And so that's what we did. Like Wade and I, we took 6 months and we actually, we really drilled down on this. And we met with lawyers, we met with accountants, we met with lenders, we met with wealth advisors and asked them, we kind of pitched, this is what we do. What do you guys think? What are your challenges, right? How would this help you, right? And so we gained a lot of feedback from that and just all of that intelligence. Then we went back and we said, okay, we can break this down into basically four steps, right? And the first step is let's define our agreement. What do you want us to do? Let's put it down on paper. Let's put out some confidentiality kind of requirements on it, right? What do you want to do? Like, and you might not even want to exit, but that's fine. You don't have to use us to do that, right? And then the other really big part of this is discovery, right? It's discovering about the farm. It's about the assets, the relationships, right? With landlords, with input dealers, with equipment dealers, right? Mm-hmm. That adds to the enterprise value. So just tons of discovery. And then, kind of from those first two, then we build the blueprint. Okay, based on what you told us, let's build a blueprint with options. Here's one option. Here's another option. Here's another option, right? And and then deliver. That's the last thing that we do. And that's the realtor model right now is they go straight to deliver, right? Get a listing agreement, put a price on it, negotiate the commission, and go to market. We're saying no. Let's do all this work ahead of time, and then when you're ready, let's go to market.
Can I add a fifth D?
Sure.
Dance. What if at the end of it you danced?
Well, at the end of it, we have a dance and we celebrate. And Wade can speak to this, right? Why don't you, Wade?
Yeah, Wade, take it away. Tell us what you want to backfill there.
I'm gonna add one other thing into the discovery. What are your yields? What are your average yields? What does your field history show? And when you have a client who wants to sell the farm and they can show that they consistently out yield the area average by 5%, 10%, 50%, that's marketable. And, that's one of the other things that a lot of people don't think about that. Well, we do. And we'll use that. What Tim's referring to, so we had a fantastic group of people to work with a couple of years back, and it's the same ones I referenced earlier. And they approached us about moving their farm, and they were farming 10,000 acres that they owned and another 5 rented. And what do we do and how do we do it? And they bought into the process right off the bat, and they totally got the let's meet with all our other advisors and have everybody in the room. So much so that throughout the process, I had full reign, as did their other advisors have full reign to contact each other back and forth. If I needed something from the lawyer, I just picked up the phone and called them or emailed them, and the same with the accountant and the banker. And we helped those folks move along, and really it couldn't have went any better. At the end of it all, when it was done, we had an appreciation evening, and everybody, when we went out to a nice restaurant and had a nice meal, and the smiles around that room, and all the advisors were there and the clients were there, and just a sense of it went as good as it could have possibly went, the satisfaction, the gratification from everybody to everybody. Certainly the clients were very appreciative of what we all did for them. Well, I was very appreciative of having the opportunity to help them. I was extremely appreciative of the lawyer and the accountant and the banker and everything they helped. So you want to experience a moment in time that is so fulfilling, you never forget it. That's it. It's just a fantastic thing.
So there was some dancing. The dancing is legitimate.
Well,
5D. You guys got up.
There were some hugs.
Hugging.
There were certainly some hugs and some tears, and you bet.
Well, that's probably
it's awesome.
We'll leave it there, but I love that. No, it is a good feeling, and there's a lot of emotions involved. I'm sure I'm sure there's a lot of elation too when it passes relatively non-eventfully with the right professional. Because let's face it, we don't want to be salacious here and go too far out of the way to illustrate what can go wrong. But you could tell stories, I'm sure, that you heard maybe you weren't involved, but I mean, we all know these situations can go very bad, not just financially, but people that never ever speak again. And we've got Ryan Hillstead on the call too from Core Wealth. I'm going to give him time to percolate. I think we'll bring you on towards the end, Ryan, if you're I don't know, you have to put your cat filter on or something. Hopefully you're not anywhere compromising, but if you could share your even share your video or come on quick and give your thoughts, because you're part of the train, I'm sure at some point. And Tim, you've worked with Core Wealth and we've had them on. So I'll give Ryan a chance to think about that. But I'm going to ask the audience a little bit here because we want to get into what keeps you up at night. And I don't care what anybody says, and maybe I'm just getting old. Sleep is one of the most precious commodities on planet Earth. And when it's taken away, and I'm going to get to your question, Harry, but it fits into another thing that I got here. So I'll honor you very shortly. But what keeps you up at night about selling a farm? And if you're not a farmer selling your farm, no problem. What do you see or what do you think is the biggest concern? And we'll get back to that. But so let's hear what you guys have to say. What are the biggest concerns and how are you addressing that in this process on our little choo-choo train that can? Wade?
I think tax exposure has become huge, and I don't know that there's any right order. You've got some exceptionally good questions there. But the structure of the sale to minimize taxes. So earlier in the conversation, we discussed, land that was 50,000 is now 500,000 or maybe even $1 million. How do you handle that in the structure of the sale, combined with the value of the assets and the fact that you got farm equipment to sell and you got grain to sell? And, are you going to do that all in 1 year? Well, probably not. And the accountant will be huge in helping us address that. But that's where the strategy comes into play. And building from day one, before we ever go to market, whether it's a quiet confidential sale or an advertised sale, is having the contract of purchase and sale already drafted. Have the draft, have the template there. And what do you build into that? Well, you naturally build in what the seller wants to see, what the exit person wants to see. But we also counsel our client on here's things that will make the buyers happy. Here's things that buyers will want to see. And you can build that into the contract at the same time. So often, once the buyer is found and we show them that draft, it's a matter of putting in the number they want to use and tweaking a few of the terms and presenting it. And that goes a long ways to making the whole process simpler. I don't know if anybody else drafts a contract prior to going to market. We do.
Prepare. Just like a good little scout would. Scouts in the old days, be prepared. I think that was our motto. Ryan, you had to jump off at 1:30, so we want to get your take on it before you had to leave. Are you there, Ryan? Is your microphone working?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah.
So
I can't quite figure out how to get my
that's okay.
my mug on there, but
good looks. Yeah.
No, thanks for allowing me to have a few minutes. So obviously, we've worked with Tim and a lot of different people in the ag sector across Saskatchewan at Core Wealth, and have been on a few of Dan's calls here. And as an accountant slash former accountant in public practice, what these guys are talking about is 100% bang on. That having to sort of get ahead of things is so important. Like, and I've one of my other calls, Dan, that I talked about people coming to me and saying, hey, we did this already, now let's deal with the taxes and all that other stuff. And I think that's not and sometimes it has to happen that way. But if we can work with our advisors, like Tim and Wade and whoever we surround ourselves with, to sort of make sure all the puzzle pieces are in place before we make that happen, it's always going to be a better outcome. And obviously, one of the things that we do at Core Wealth, being part of that, is we do have some strategies that can be part of that plan. And the tax, like the question right at the beginning, from a $300 a quarter to 5,000 or an up a quarter, you talk about tax and what that could look like. I mean, it's big numbers now. And so, yeah, I think just the main topic or the main point that we all are going to get out of this is that, we have a team. Let's use that team. Let's get them all together at the table to make sure that we're doing what's really best for us and our family.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. And we'll let you go because you got to jump off and help somebody, I guess. Grow their wealth is technically what you do. So we'll let you go help that person get richer. God bless them. What's keeping people up at night? I'm going to share the results here. So what keeps you up at night if you're a farmer and an advisor working with farms? Tax exposure, number one, or tied with family conflict. Did you think, guys, tax exposure and family conflict would be tied head and head, a third each?
Yeah, a new family conflict would be strong because as we deal with that every single time, right? And to different levels, right? And of course, everybody wants, to put as much as they can in their pocket. But it isn't always, number one, just, kind of depending. They want to be aware of what the tax consequences are, so, but anyways, yeah, this is interesting. I'm not surprised to see family that high.
Let's keep picking this apart because this is nobody and their dog said getting the right price.
Yeah.
Huh? Is it, help me out? Because I guess maybe the different, I don't know. Would you get it? Help me understand that nobody was concerned about getting the right price.
Well, 100%, right? It's about getting fair value, right? And just being aware of what that is. I mean, we've seen people sell for discounts, because maybe it's the neighbor's kid, right? Or is somebody coming in from another province that they've got this amazing plan on how to take this enterprise to the next level, and that resonates with the seller. So it's not always about achieving maximum dollars. It's about maximum value, and part of that fulfillment that the seller gets, that's part of the value, right? So that doesn't surprise me. Actually, it's as much as people like to think that they're gonna, that they're driven to get the most the highest price, there are just so many other things that influence their ultimate decision.
Oh, that is so crazy. What do you think of that way? What do you make of that?
What's the highest price after tax? Because the highest price after tax doesn't necessarily start with the highest price to begin with. How is it structured, right? So no, that is no shock to me at all. And it's more about, again, the structure. And I know sometimes that sounds like an overused word, but I don't know if we can overuse it. How did we plan that from day one to make, the tax exposure be as minimal as possible, but also the family dynamics. And maybe we're not even selling to an outside buyer. Maybe it's going to the son or daughter that wants to stay on the farm, but the son or daughter that aren't on the farm are still part in some fashion, right? We can help with that too. But even with that, there's still tax exposure, right? Mom and dad don't just get to hand the farm over to one of their children without tax implications. It's still there. So there's so many different ways to structure stuff with the help of the other advisors. And I want to touch quickly on something that the what was the guy that was just on? Sorry, I forgot his name.
Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan. And he mentioned, that they have some tax knowledge too. One of the things I find repeatedly when we get to sit with all the advisors in the same room, there's always overlap. And the ability of one advisor to help another one out and say, oh, well, did you think of this? And that's huge. And pretty soon you have a collaborative group that goes, yeah, I didn't think of that, but here's what we can do with it. So it's the overlap and the ability to help each other to, at the end of the day, help the client. It's huge. So yeah, Ryan was bang on there.
I wanted to bring on Laura, but she's seating, but she did have a question. And I think it's around this confidentiality. And Harry Siemens is asking that as well. Keeping the price a secret for some others want everyone to know. What do you advise? But nobody was concerned about confidentiality. But I thought it was striking how you engineered this exit without anybody knowing. That is wild. And how many people want that? We were thinking maybe that would be a good poll question in itself. But there are circumstances where you got to go Mission Impossible and you know, you got to get rid of that $30 million farm. I don't know if in the middle of the night you put out the thing and then it's gone in the morning. What does that mean? Because and then the other question was tangentially, how do you get on that list of people that, you know, confidentially you would go to, like, hey man, you open your trench coat and you got a $30 million farm and somebody wants to buy it.
The confidentiality, the request to sell a large operation or a small one for that matter, confidentiality comes for various reasons. One of the big ones, especially for the large operations, is loss of employees. And let's say you got 10 or 12 or 20 employees because you got a massive farm and they hear it's for sale. Well, the first thing they start talking to each other about is, well, do I have a job next week? Right. And they start looking, and pretty soon you've got half staff and you're going into seeding. Well, you can't have that. And the farm will be an ongoing operation until the day it's sold, whether that's 1 month, 3 months, 3 years. So that is huge, is the potential loss of employees. Another one is the potential loss of lease land. So you've got landlords that find out your farm's for sale and they're going, oh, well, are you not farming my land next year? I guess I better look for somebody else. You know, they don't want that. And a big one is the coffee shop talk. You just don't need it. You don't need everybody talking about you downtown. It's just not a stress you need to handle or deal with. So there's a lot of reasons, but those are certainly some of them. And
the buyers
Tim,
may want to stay confidential too.
Yes.
The buyer may want to be confidential too.
Yeah. I have no issues getting qualified buyers to sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. None whatsoever.
I bet not. I bet not.
So, but Tim, if you want to speak to how we qualify the buyers, you know, I mean, pick that up.
Exactly. And again, this is not the traditional method. This is our method. Is like we interview buyers, right? We want to understand them. We spend time discovering, right? What are your growth goals, right? Where do you want to be in the province? What are your, you know, what are your capabilities on your farm right now that at the next farm can kind of leverage? And so we have very in-depth kind of conversation, determine what their capability is, as well as their appetite, right? And so we understand who they are and what they're about and where they want to go. And then we match that with selling opportunities. So it's, and I mean, we've got an email list of 10,000 people, but we're not going to blast it out to that. We want to be precision oriented when we do this, right? Especially if the seller wants to keep it confidential, because if it doesn't work out, we want to minimize how many people know about this, but we also want to maximize our opportunity to get it right on the first crack.
So that's where the folks need to develop a relationship with you.
Yeah.
What I love about this is you're creating the structure. It's not about the structure as well. I mean, it's about the structure, but it's about creating the conversations within the structure. That's what the structure is holding. A lot of people are concerned about timing, and I think that's in the same category as should I buy, should I not buy, should I overpay for that quarter sections that are close to home, should I keep expanding? And right now, you might be second guessing your timing, given everything that's going on in the world.
Timing from a selling perspective, I mean, we'll flesh a lot of that out from that initial conversation of, you know, what are their interests? What do they want to do? Do they want to farm for 1 more year, 3 more years? The market, when you decide to sell, the market is what it is. And if you decide at that point you want to wait for things to improve, well, fine, then wait. But maybe you can't. Maybe there's a health issue, or maybe it's a forced sale or whatever. We still want to ensure that you're paid property. So timing can be touchy depending on all the other factors that are at play. But certainly we address that with them. And incidentally, even though the majority of farmland traditionally sells in the winter months, say October through April, when's the best time to market your farm? It's not in the winter months. It's really hard for me to show how productive your land is. I can't really dig in it very good with a spade in the middle of January. If you know it's your last year, you know when your last year is of farming, this is your last crop, we should be starting a year before that. And on July 2nd, when everything's growing to beat the band and the spraying is mostly done and the fields are green and the weather's warm, that's when we take your farm to market.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Two things on that. I already forgot the first one, but the second thing is buying farmland. I know a fellow who I was in business with that wasn't looking at the dirt. He was driving around. He didn't care if it was in the winter. He was looking at the yards in the area and are there nice yards, and you can just kind of see the wealth area from area. And hope I remember what I was going to mention there. But anyways, I know Tim, you probably had some to share, but I wanted to get to this team coordination question because Harry Siemens asking how many farm families actually get in the same room the way you suggest that we're talking about here. So I'm wondering how coordinated are you, and we can talk about those results too. But Tim, did you have a little bit to add about that?
Yeah.
What it was sharing?
Yeah. I mean, we've learned that how important it is. So we obviously encourage this with every transition that we're doing right now. But even when you take a look at, transitions, period, right? Whether within the family, a lot of people talk about it, they meet with their advisors, but to actually develop a plan and execute on it, like I think it's maybe 20% of people do it. It is hard, right? And so and I guess that's what we're good at. We realize the hard and how to solve it is just to get everybody in the room, keep them collaborating, keep everybody on the same page, and keep it moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we're talking about here with this team coordination. How many people are actually executing, and even I think you had some statistics there too. Even a fraction of people that are like looking into this end up with something on the outer end. So, I mean, you fractionate it down. It's very few people that can be as fortunate to be in a position for like me as a non-farming sibling to be sat down and say, it's done. Here's what it is. Here's your little, we're going to take this one bean and we're splitting it in half. And this is your bean den. That's what happened. I'm just kidding.
No, but everybody
Whatever.
should have an exit plan, right? Whether that's to family or whether it's to a third party or to a neighbor or to an investor, you should have a plan, right? And some thought behind it.
Yeah. We're going to end this poll. Go ahead, Wade.
I seldom walk into a family kitchen, farm kitchen, the first time and hear that they've already got an advisor team set up. They may have a lawyer, they may have an accountant, and they may have had the same ones for 10 years. They've probably never talked to each other. They might know each other if they're from the same town, but they've never talked to each other, right? It's never been discussed. And really, the more we do it, it's still not easy, but it's getting easier to get our clients to understand how important that meeting is. And I think today's podcast, and having these discussions is really getting that out and say, you need to have those meetings. You need to allow us to do that. And what I find is not only is the client way more happy at the end of the meeting, their advisors are like, wow, we should do this more. I've had accountants look at me and say, I've never done this before, but I probably should, right? It's a great experience. It's a great process, and we're happy to be part of it.
Harry, you have a successful succession story of a dairy farm that could have gone really bad. Regale us with your tales.
Well, it's something that happened a number of years ago. It's a dairy farm up at Grunthal, Manitoba. And one of the owners, one of the brothers today is actually the chair of the Dairy Farmers of Canada. His name is David. But way back when, they had no succession plan, and they had a fairly successful dairy. Their father, Johnny, had a major heart attack, and they didn't think he was going to make it through, but he did. But they had no succession plan. So when he got better, they got on the wagon and really started working on their succession plan. Couple of things to remember here. They went to one guy who they thought would do it, but he had no idea. And from there, they went somewhere else. And so finally, they got a really good plan going. I did the article on how that plan worked out. Didn't take long after that. Johnny had another heart attack, and he passed on. And so I gave it some time. I called David up and I said, David, how did that succession plan work? He said, it worked really, really well. Had we not had it, had he passed that first time without that plan, it would have been a complete disaster. And so I just wanted to also say thanks, Dan, for don't you ever, we're not going to let you off the hook. You got to keep doing these things because I'm writing stories about this. I'm making money. And so at the same time, the other fellows as well, the other
Right.
fellows as well, keep up the good work because I've done 55 years of farm journalism. I've heard and seen so many stories. So thanks for the time and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Harry. I really appreciate that. Oh, it just got me a little choked up there, guys. Yeah, I don't know. It means a lot. I appreciate that, Harry. And thanks for the devotions. Keep me on my toes there. Team coordination. 19% are fully coordinated, as in everyone talks to each other. 38% are partially coordinated. Some advisors talk, some don't. 38% are partially, yeah. Kind of in the middle there. And then 13% would admit to be siloed. Every advisor stays in their own lane. And then 31% said, what team, Dan? What team? What do you make of that, Harry? That's your answer right there. How many farm families get it? What do you think of that? Does that resonate?
Absolutely. There are far more. I remember sitting at one meeting about succession planning, and this couple was sitting beside me, and they said, well, we sold the combine so that we could buy a house in town. And then later on, where's the combine? Oh, the sister didn't want them to spend more money so they could have a combine. These are just,
Yeah.
that's why you guys do such a great job, that we don't have those kinds of stories repeating.
Love it. Well, thanks for jumping on. I appreciate you, Harry. I was thinking about you as a host. If I ever want to take holidays or get sick or something, you should take over the show and probably do it more justice than I can. But yeah,
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's really accurate. Like there's probably 20% of the people that are, we start talking to them and they have considered all this stuff, right? And they have had their team kind of work together. And I mean, it's such a pleasure and you can just see, kind of the relief on their face and what they're doing, right? So there is a percentage of people that have done that hard work, right? And then there's a percentage of people that have done some of it, and a large percentage that haven't done any of it.
yeah. We were talking about the word premium, and it didn't come up as being extremely important because I thought it was kind of all about price. But you use this word enterprise value, and you said something to the effect that the word premium pisses off buyers. Uh, why can't we use the word premium? Why did I get corrected when I said premium? Is that a fair question?
I think the word premium has to go in hand with the value that it's commanding. You have to show them the value for paying it. Will buyers pay a premium for a block of land versus a scattered bunch of land? Selling 5,000 acres that's all over God's creation, or selling 5,000 acres that's all within 10 miles of each other? They will pay a premium for that. So I guess maybe a little clarification. Premium, yes, but why am I paying it? And justification. Will I pay you a bit of a premium for well-managed dirt that is consistently for the last 8 years, 10% higher yield than the area average? You bet, because I get immediate, as the buyer, I get immediate results out of that. I'm the benefactor of what they've done. And so, but just to say a premium, just to get a premium.
Yeah, I think nobody mentioned it as being paramount, but you're talking about an extra $500 an acre between what could have been what maybe is if you don't illustrate the value of everything that goes together. And I love that if you take enough time in this process and you've been strategic, let's face it, anybody who has a business has to have asked themselves, for all due love and respect to themselves, are we building to sell? Or are we not building to sell here? And maybe somebody can fill me in on the perspective of anybody in the audience. We've got so many professionals. What are the amount of successful farms that are going to continue in the future that aren't going to have to transition soon for various reasons? And we know the foundation of the economics of this business has been transformed recently by all kinds of things, and it's going to accelerate that process. So those transitions are happening. So anyways, I'll let you guys comment on that.
When we get into part 2 of this series, we're going to talk a lot about the acquisition side and what you should buy and what you shouldn't buy. But just to touch on that a little bit, when you're in that stage one of the things we're going to talk about next time around is you should always be building as if you're selling.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that, because you don't know what tomorrow brings. And maybe you need that plan and maybe you don't. Maybe 20 years goes by and I'm not even around anymore. But if you've built your farm with that mindset, you're always in a really good position. You mentioned the dairy farmer. Dad had a heart attack, right? Every year we get a call from somebody that something completely unexpected happened. We were going to farm for 20 more years, but the primary operator is either gone or incapacitated, right? Well, if you've already had the plan built all along, you're still in a good position. So,
yeah.
Well, we're getting close to the top of the end of the hour. I just love it if you share your top takeaways, and I hope people are excited about this journey because there's so many little nuts and bolts that we can, pick apart and reverse engineer them. And what I do love too, Tim, and I'm sure you love this, being a strategic coach guy, and it's all about the who. We're going to be bringing in a bunch of fantastic folks to talk about all kinds of interesting topics as we go through this, because there's so many interesting aspects with so many other people that we can bring in, and what an opportunity to have a team of people to work with through this journey. That's what makes it fun.
Oh, yeah, no, it's great. I mean, really, the whole industry, we've got some challenges ahead of us, right? Like across Canada, we got to transfer $50 billion of farmland or farm assets over the next, kind of 5 to 10 years. And how do we do that at all-time high prices, right? Because it's never been more expensive to do that. But there is a way through that. We just have to think creatively, right? And we can't do that as individuals. We need to do that as a team, as an industry, as, trusted advisors on their team.
I know what I forgot I was going to say, and it was damn good. It was the only person that can time the market is Trent Clarenbach. My buddy Trent. And he's, if anybody can, Trent can figure it out with all those, fancy squiggly lines and everything. But trying to time the market on an exit for farmland prices, I mean, and it's pretty steady as it goes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to some of the big takeaways here. I'm going to just maybe read through a few of them here quickly. A little bit of cannon fodder towards the end here for what people were thinking about what we shared. And I'll share this poll result with you free of charge. No charge for this. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, Sean had a word there. Farming is risky. Enterprise risk management is so important, which includes, among other risks, the risk of succession, whether planned or unplanned. Take the time and do it right. And I was watching the guy on TikTok in the dust storm yesterday who was complaining, his 4240 is getting sandblasted. The 9RX is pulling back into the yard. You can't seed. Like, when stuff like that happens, you get humbled by how small you are and how big the world's events are. And you're not in control of a darn thing, are you? Like, you don't know what's, I mean, you can only prepare. So Tridal Farms Limited said, get a team together. Harry Siemens1@gmail.com said, Dan, I've said it before, keeping it real people, real questions, and real answers and real discussions. These are not AI avatars, despite my intense use of AI and everything. B. Christensen at AmericanFederal.net. Get all parties in the same room to work together, have a plan. Ray Hebert said, track yield to help sell land years later. Well, and we're doing a benchmarking series with MNP, and we were already having some green rooms on that. Could you guys guess what, maybe you missed did you get Mike Pommier's presentation at Convergence last year? Where he was talking about the difference in gross revenue in the same area? Can you guess what some of the top and bottom gross revenue differences would be in his area? It was,
I'm gonna guess 150 to $200 an acre.
yeah, you're so good at this.
I think it was 180. I think it was 184 or something.
Yeah, you guys are both nerds.
Thank you.
You'll take that one,
I
Patricia.
will.
At Turtle Ford Credit Union, thanks for sharing your money. Build your farm as if you were going to sell it. Yes, build to sell. There's a book, there's a podcast. I had the guy on in the early days that had a big impression on me, even though I never sold Aberhart Egg, but that's a whole nother story, another episode. But you never know what happens in the future. But building to sell is so functional for your business now. That's the cool part. All the things that you put in place to say somebody would want to buy this. And as my dad said, go look good going broke. He must have said that like a million times, and in those days he was frustrated. He was like, let's just have an auction sale. At least it will look good going broke or whatever. I'm not sure what he meant, but Arnold Webster said no answer. So interesting takeaways. And I really appreciate the conversation. So with that, then what would be your takeaways from this conversation? I know you guys always learn a lot, well, talking it out, hearing from the crowd, and working through this process and getting other angles. What are your guys' big takeaways? Maybe Tim, and then Wade will give you the last word.
Yeah, one of my takeaways, like Harry's story, right? Like how powerful is that, right? And I mean, we see it, kind of day in, day out on an exit to a third party, but within your own family, right? And so it's not just, isolated to an exit to a third party, it's within your family, right? And it demonstrates how hard it is to have those conversations, but how important it is, right? So I think it just reemphasizes it. It's through the whole framework, right? Through everyone's farming experience.
Great. What about you, Wade? What's your big takeaway?
I like some of the comments. They would suggest we're heading in the right direction with our thoughts as well, is get your team, get it organized if you don't already have it, and be prepared. One of the comments there was, you never know what happens. Build the farm today like you're selling it tomorrow. Absolutely hugely important stuff. And one of your earlier questions, there was an answer there was, I think, was it the one about who's all on your team? And I noticed nobody picked realtor. And I think that's what Tim and I have been saying for a dozen years. We're not realtors, right? We are advisors with a specialized knowledge of how to help people do this and how to organize and be that lead. We're never going to tell the lawyer, the accountant, the banker, the wealth advisor what to do, but we will make sure everybody's up to date and involved, and that their expertise will be sought when it's needed, and keep that organized and coordinated for the client. And we love that role. We love to be a part of it. So that's a huge takeaway for me is, we're not realtors. We're farmland advisors.
Better change the name, Tim.
I feel an evolution coming on here, Dan.
Well,
there we go.
It is kind of a separate division, and I guess that's what attracted me to working with you guys when I heard about that. When we first met, and you said we're doing mergers and acquisitions, and I just was like, oh, I guess it is, eh? And I wanted to know more about that, and here we are. The poll that I put out, I just wanted to make everybody aware, it is confidential. If you wanted to hear from somebody from Hammond Realty about farmland exit or acquisition, or you want to get on the advisory train, I think this is such a neat opportunity. Aren't a lot of folks clicking their heels, hallelujah, that someone's leading the charge here and they could be a part of that? Because you got to be an accountant there chewing on the end of your eraser some days, wondering, well, this is pretty complicated for me. I can't solve all my clients' problems, like the plethora of issues, but with the right team, I could. Is that fair? So if you do want to be contacted, Tim will be coming to your house today. If you fill out the survey, he's going to Tim and Wade. We'll just split it down the middle. Wade will go see half. Tim will go see half. And whatever, they'll buy you lunch. Barley soup at the local.
It's all about conversations, right? That's what really drives us, right? Is just helping people decide for themselves, right? And it's what kind of gets us up in the morning is to have these conversations anyways, because we get tremendous fulfillment out of having those.
Well, Wade was up at 5 and he had his last coffee at 7:30, so he could get through this call without pee break, because they both went before
reading my notes. It's a unique business that we're building, and I don't know that it exists anywhere else. Maybe it does, and I'm just not aware of it. I'm not sure. But we're thrilled to be doing it, and just so much enjoy, those kitchen table discussions. They are so much fun, and to be able to help people and see the relief lifted once you start going down the path. And I did one not that long ago. I went with my coworker Kevin Jarrett, and I went and did one, and it was fantastic. And we sat at these good folks' house for a couple of hours. And are they going to have us back when they decide to move forward? I'll be shocked if they don't.
Awesome.
Great things, great stuff.
Well, I'm really excited to watch your enthusiasm, Wade, because you really wanted to share this. And we got another one coming up on June 5th.
Is that when we're going to, so the acquisition side, we'll dive into the acquisition.
On that. Give us in a world where farms are selling for big bucks, Wade Berlinic will help you out.
One of the things I run across, and if you look at the old way of doing things from a buyer perspective, is it's reactive, and often reactive quickly because, 2 quarters came up for sale somewhere in my area. If I don't hurry up and bid on them, I'm not going to get them, and so on and so forth. And they never stopped and asked themselves the questions as if they should. I used to say to my kids as they were getting old enough to understand financing, and say, just because the bank will give you money doesn't mean you should take it. and in farming, just because a quarter of land comes up for sale, should you buy it? What is the purpose? If it fits and all the, it crosses all the I's and dots all the T's, buy it. But if it doesn't, why are you? And another one is for these people that want to grow. They're at 5,000 acres and 2 kids want to stay home and farm, and they need to get to 10. How do they get there? What's the plan, right? We can help with that. So if you're in the growing mode, if you think your family is going to be expanding, the next podcast, it's for you. And we'll certainly tackle those questions and answers.
Right, the salesman. I love it.
Well, what's interesting, Dan, it's the same framework, it's the same structure. It's just applied to acquisitions instead of exits.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'm really looking forward to that conversation too. And then I think following that, we'll be doing a lot of collaborative talks with panels of people that belong on that choo-choo train that could. And for anybody who's kind of interested, I think the real win is for people that listen over the long term to sort of gradually dawn on them. Maybe you got to hear it many times, different ways that you should move towards this. And hey, it's not easy for any of us to address some of these things that we need to address. I'm similar human being with those traits, but hopefully people are encouraged to get this done. Harry Siemens says, years ago, I did a story with the Alterra farmer who was farming 40,000 acres. I asked him why. He said, number 1, I can. He says, number 2, most of the land does not come up for sale again. Alberta. He said he could, because he could. All right, folks, that's it for today. Thanks so much, Tim and Wade and everybody that joined. It was an awesome crowd and all the interaction, and we'll be sharing more shortly. Stay tuned. Thanks so much.